Sean.
Thank you very much. A deep pleasure to be performing again for you. Welcome to Boulder County Tonight. I'm Andy Upler. I'm the host of the show. Don't call the police. I'm supposed to be here. If you're watching this when they broadcast it on Longmont Public Media, then I need to be like, hey, Grandma. Grandma, wake up. Grandma, it's me. Relax, it's me. I'm just wearing a mask. You're not like at the hospital. How are you? You doing good? Feeling okay? Hey, listen, you fell asleep in front of the TV again. Why don't you go on back to bed? All right. You know you're not supposed to be up this late. Okay. Can we up that woman's dose? Little hand update. I have a new cast on. It's a hard cast.
Who's there?
Who's there? A pained friend of mine, very involved in my self-romantic life. Stuck in a cast. So I've been having to live with this thing. We're gonna see it for the next few episodes, unfortunately. The worst thing about this is that I can't get it wet, and so I have to put it in a trash bag and tape it up, and whenever I want to take a shower, which if you know me is often. So to take a shower, I have to wrap it up, I have to sit like this. It's what it must have been to take a shower at Hitler Youth Camp. Hitler Youth Camp. Was there a Hitler Youth Camp? I think there maybe was. The darkness. We have a little note from the producer from last episode. A little correction, I guess we should make. This says, correction from previous episode. That billionaire guillotine joke, remember that? We love that joke. Turned out to be very similar to a joke which had already been circulating on social media. We didn't realize we had been beaten to that joke and that the French Revolution was on so many people's minds. For the record, of course, Boulder County Tonight would never support any kind of violence, and the joke was, of course, never intended to be a call for violent action to be taken against anyone. Boulder County Tonight apologizes to whoever got there first in the tangled vastness of the internet. Fuck! Why can't you do it? Why can't you do it? Why can't you tell the jokes? Why can't you do it? Well, it was Labor Day this week, yesterday. Happy Labor Day to you. I hope you had a great holiday. What is Labor Day, you ask? What was Labor Day?
What was Labor Day?
Great question. Something we made up in 1884. And listen to this. This is going to be a quote. When I do like this, just know that these fingers wish they could do this. It's about to be a quote. I don't want to frighten you. I'm not like a follower of Baphomet or whatever it is. It'd be like this. Labor Day was a national holiday to celebrate the labor movement and the works and contributions of laborers to the development and growth of America. Didn't know that, did you? Because when I think Labor Day, I think two phrases. I think Happy Labor Day, which is sort of a fucked up phrase that doesn't make any sense. And then, of course, I think Labor Day sale. So what that means, Labor Day sale is code for the people we're celebrating, the laborers, they're going to have to work on Labor Day. That's what the fuck that means. These people, 40% of companies have some of their employees stay for Labor Day, right? Remember, during the apocalypse last year, we called, our laborers, people like the grocery store, for instance, our friends at the grocery store, we called them heroes, of course, because they were facing a fucking pandemic because we were standing on each other's necks to get toilet paper. We needed somebody to do it. They're fucking real heroes from that story. But when they signed up to bag groceries, they weren't signing up to be Batman. They weren't supposed to be national level heroes. You know what I mean? It's those people that we will, our society fights tooth and nail to not raise their pay $1. Those people, the heroes, the laborers, they worked on Labor Day, motherfuckers. Just a note. Just a note. Another note? We have another note from the producer. Hold on one second. Let me see what this is. Okay, this says, corporate statism, or simply corporatism, is a political culture closely related to fascism, where corporations team up with the government to abuse workers in the name of profit. Why did they give me that? I don't even know what that means. I don't even know what that means. That wasn't exactly a production level note. Thank you for snapping to my poetry. We'll be a little more conscientious with our producer notes. What else is going on in the world? A little national news again. Oh! You guys remember the War on Terror?
Yeah.
The one that we declared mission accomplished on 18 years ago? Well, turns out that was still going. So the War on Terror is over. And we lost.
Yeah.
We lost the War on Terror. And I think it's now time for Americans to realize, and maybe admit to ourselves, the modern way that we go to war makes the shit we go to war against stronger. Here's how you know. Went to war against terror 20 years ago. What's happened in the last 20 years? Oh, way less terror, obviously. No, more terror. We get more shit. It's more happening where we live and shit now at a different level. And the war on drugs, right? Did we defeat drugs in the United States? Did they beat drugs? Or are there way more drugs?
Yay.
More drugs!
More drugs.
I'm against that particular war, of course. I'm against all the wars. So what's another one? The war on Christmas. Oh, every year I hear about oh my God, there's a war on Christmas. They're trying to throw baby Jesus in the river or whatever. And I don't know, how's Christmas doing? Christmas is doing pretty good, if you noticed. As capitalists, of course, it's our most holy holiday. Because it's our big sale day. And it's got a war against it constantly. Since I was a child, since the 90s, we've been fighting the war against Christmas. And Christmas just is unbeatable. Us atheists, we're just going to have to give up smashing the war. Christmas. But I know what you're thinking. Andy, we're so glad that the war on terror is over. Oh, God, me too. I'm so pleased. But of course, there are some bad, sad things about ending the war on terror. And I know that you're just as worried as I am about the well-being of our great American war profiteers. What are they going to do? Where are they going to go? How are they going to feed their families? Right? Oh, they've been in this reliable state, it's been a thriving industry, of course, being at war in Afghanistan for 20 years. And now these people are having the rug pulled out from under them, thrown out into the street. And here's the problem with these folks, of course. They've been doing the same thing for 20 years. They've been profiting off of our tax dollars to go kill people that aren't really trying to bother us. Just a note there, they've been fighting this war, right? So, now that the war's over, what are they going to fucking do? They don't exactly have a lot of skill sets, other than defrauding the government and mass murder. They don't exactly have a lot of skill set for the modern peaceful economy, do they? What are they going to fucking do? Work for Uber? They gonna drive for Uber? They've bombed more cars than they've driven. What are they gonna do? Work at the pawn shop? And they're buy Sean's guitar for $50 and resell it to him for $120,000? You know what I mean? They don't have a skill set for the modern world. That's what I'm trying to say. And even though we're worried about these people, I want you to know that the government is worried too. And so we've actually already built in the answer for this particular problem. We left behind billions of dollars worth of Humvees and helicopters and equipment This way they have something to fight us with when we declare war on them again in a few years. See? So don't you worry about the war of profiteers. I just want to put your little mind at ease about that shit. There's another quick note from the producers. Let me grab that for us. Surely some war statistic. Let's see. Oh, this is from our producer, Mr. Ra. Says, I am strange. My mind is tinted with the colors of madness. They fight in silent furor in the effort to possess each other. I am strange. I have approached a degree of love that is so unwise in one world that it is wisdom in another. I am strange. I no longer have respect for hate, for I am stronger than hate. I am contemptuous of both those who hate and those who destroy. I am not a part of the world which hates and the world which destroys. I want a better world. And not only do I want a better world, I seek to live a better life so that I have the right to be a part of a better world. If I hate and destroy, I have no right to speak of love. Love is greater than hate, and I have chosen love above all else in the world. No more notes. What are you doing? That was weird. Thank you very much. Let's reassess our relationship with the producers. No more notes for the rest of the episode. That was a weird one. The episode. Oh my God, this episode's brought to you by our good friends. Do you need a drink, motherfucker? Because I do. Our sponsor, this company here, Abbott and Wallace Distilling. Oh my God, we love them. Oh, that's right. Abbott and Wallace Distilling, my good friends. They are a whiskey and rum distillery. They make cocktails and mocktails. They got munchies. They do live music very often. They do public tastings and events. You can buy their stuff in local stores. But I recommend stopping into the actual place. That's at 350 Terry Street, 720-545-2017. That's their phone number. Remember when you used to call people, you just dial in the numbers and then you talk to them? That's what you could do with that little combination. On today's episode, we'll be having an interview, not with an inanimate object with someone's hand up its ass, but rather one of our dear public servants, a city council person who is running for re-election, and we're going to invite her onto the show now. This is Marcia Martin. Marcia, please join me. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you too.
Please have a seat.
If I can find a chair, I will do that. Well, hello.
So now that we're seated and we have drinks, we can take our masks off. That's the rules.
That's the rules, and as long as we put the mask back on before we stand up, then we're okay, because that's what the Boulder County Health Department wanted us to do, so that we could, buy drinks.
I'm a letter of the law guy, as you might suspect.
Yeah.
Marcia, you have been on city council a while now.
Yeah,
for a full term.
I've been on city council for 4 years minus 2 months, because the election is in the second day of November in this fall. And what else is there to say about it?
How did you like it? Have you noticed a theme with these answers? When you're like, how do you like being on city council? They're like, oh boy.
Well, in some ways it's the best job I've ever had, and in other ways it's the most thankless job I've ever had. But I think it's a job that needs to be done. And so when I started running in the first place, I swore up and down that I would not run for a second term, because I didn't want to be beholden to anybody, and I wanted to be able to always tell the truth. And so I did that, and then you know what happened? Nobody ran against me.
That helps. That helps a lot. And you're in my ward.
Yeah. Well, I like the number of votes to not be embarrassingly low, so I'd appreciate your vote.
Even if there weren't options, I would consider voting for you. You're such a delightful character.
Oh, well, thank you. I am a character, I think. Yeah, local government, somebody already probably said this in one of your interviews, but local government is really where we really touch the people the most, and we do the things that we need because we can see them. I had this adventure during the pandemic when it was impossible to go out and see people and talk to them, but Longmont has some very, very large local Facebook groups.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, large, like bigger than my ward, okay? And so I did my fix of working with the public by lurking on that Facebook group. And, I found out that the public doesn't know how to access the services that government has there ready and waiting for them.
And what kind of services would you mean?
Well, like getting a hit of money to make sure that they stay current on their rent or their electric bill.
That's a thing that's available in the city? I didn't know that.
Yeah, it is. And especially since the ARPA passed, there is a lot of money available in the city. But there always has been. They don't know how to get a housing voucher, or if they applied for one 8 years ago and they haven't heard anything, they think it's still okay, and I'd say, you should check in and see if they still have you, because what probably happened is your number came up and they couldn't find you. Did you update your address every time you changed couches,
Mm-hmm.
And, and the answer is no. Well, okay, so here's the deal, if somebody takes you to court, show up. If it's an eviction hearing, show up. It's free to get a mediator from the city to come and stand there with you and make sure that your side is represented and try to work out a deal. Because the worst thing you want to do is have to find another place to live right now.
Yes.
We don't have enough places to live, and
they cost way too much.
They cost way too much. And so, my number one mission on the city council is to find ways to rebalance the inventory, just like Walmart does. We need to make sure that we've got the right kind of houses at the right price so that people can find places to live, and so that people don't bid the houses we've got out of anybody's price range, which is what's happening right now.
Right.
Now most people don't need to live on the historic west side. They may think they do, but nobody really needs to live there. Everybody needs an apartment or a condo, and it shouldn't cost more than about a third of what they earn. Well, so if we bid up all of the houses up to where they cost as much as Boulder, or raise all the rents to where rent costs as much as Boulder, we're shooting ourselves in the foot as a city.
That's right. I agree with you.
Right?
Yes.
Because what we want to have is we want to have this ladder so that as people have different stages of their lives, they can move around and be in the kind of house that they need, and by the time they have 3 kids, a dog, and 2 cats, well then, maybe they can afford a house with a yard and all of that stuff. But when they're just starting out, they don't need that, and you know what? Life is hard, and being an adult is hard. You probably don't want that. You may think you want that, but remember about mowing the lawn. You don't want to do that. I didn't want to do that when I was young, and you know what? Now I'm old and I don't want to do it either. Anyway, it was a big deal learning how to help people that are in trouble when, we're doing a really bad job at making the help possible to find when it doesn't even occur to a lot of people that it's there.
One of our main focuses on this show, well, 3 of them are affordable housing, homelessness, and how we're treating that population, and then workforce abuse. We have all these jobs that pay bullshit. We're expected to pay an incredible rent every month. We're trying to see how those things are related and what we can do about them.
They are all related, even in ways that are different than what people will obviously think. So, average Joe whose house is already paid for and has been living in Longmont since there were 40,000 people here instead of 100,000 people here, they naturally think that if we build a bunch more places for people to live, that they're all gonna live their lifestyle, and they're all gonna have 2 cars, and the traffic in Longmont is gonna get way worse. But what really is true is that if we did that, you know, if we built dense housing in the inner part of the city, not on top of the historic west side or even the historic east side, you know, but around that, then all those people who work here and are commuting into the city could live here instead. And they're not gonna come here with 3 cars and drive around all day to make up for not having to do the commute. You know, right? They're not gonna do that. You know, instead they're gonna get on their bike or they're gonna walk. They're gonna drive way, way less. And when they do, it's gonna be at the time when most other people don't drive, right? Only like moms with young babies are gonna be driving then when they drive. And so this is perfect. Having urban density and people who work here, able to live here, makes us have less traffic, which is what everybody wants. And yet, whenever there's a new building that being, you know, a permit that comes before the city council, everybody within like 2 miles of the new development comes and says, it's gonna ruin my neighborhood, it's gonna make more traffic, it's gonna, you know, everything is different, and you promised me that this wasn't gonna happen.
I feel like that's a silly thing to worry about. I feel like on the things that are happening in the city, I feel like traffic is like not that terrible of a thing that's happening. I'm more worried about like people that can't pay their rent because their job pays bullshit during a pandemic, and then they get kicked out of their house. They become part of our homeless population.
But they all are related, and
I agree that they're related.
And that is the whole point, because if you have, you know, what happens now is because you don't have enough housing, then the luxury apartments are snapped up by people who would really like more than that. And if you built affordable market housing, then those people would live there because they'd rather enjoy the 2 hours a day that they're not commuting than, you know, and have pocket money so that they could spend. And that would mean that they wouldn't be trying to get into the affordable housing because they can't find any other place. And that means we could keep people who need affordable housing in affordable housing. Because this is the other trick about homeless people. You know, there are some people who are gonna be homeless, and we have to figure out how to coexist with them. But the other thing about people who become—
I'm not sure I agree with that particular point.
Well, we can debate that, but I'd like to make the first point first.
Please.
Which is that if somebody falls out of housing, you know, because they were just barely there, they were just barely making rent and feeding their kids and getting to their job every day, you know, if something happens, like their kid needs to go to the emergency room and you know what, or their car breaks down, any of those things, and they lose their lease because of that and become homeless, you know, well, first of all, they're going to lose their kids, and second, when they're going to be really sad when they're on the street, you know, and they're probably going to get sick, and after about 6 months of living that way, they become the other kind of homeless who just don't believe there's anything else.
Because they're hopeless because they haven't been treated in the system.
Yeah, well,
like, that makes sense to lose hope. I would lose hope too if I were trying to make the system work.
that's absolutely right. That's what I'm trying to say.
It feels like the system at large is not incentivized to fix the homeless problem, because I think systemically what works for our masters is we work our shitty jobs as hard as we can, and we take whatever pay is available, but like the threat is if you become homeless, there is no help for you. So you better just take this shitty job and shut the fuck up. I believe the new American dream is just stability.
I'm really sorry that's true, because in my entire life I have found stability really boring, and I think we need change to stay alive, you know, to know we're alive. But there's change and then there's change, you know. Falling out of your grummy apartment is not the kind of change that makes you feel alive.
Right.
And yeah, you know, I had a big public fight with some people on the staff about 3 years ago, because I said, why don't we build a homeless shelter? You know, there's a homeless shelter in Boulder, But if you're in that homeless shelter in Boulder and your crummy job that you have held onto by your fingernails is in Longmont, and then to be in the shelter in Boulder, you have to be in coordinated entry, and coordinated entry requires you to keep 4 appointments a week, which also is gonna make you lose your crummy job because you get paid by the hour, and if you're not there, they fire you, and then they take the next person who wants a crummy job, you know?
And gas is $4 an hour or
Well,
$4
yeah,
per
those
gallon?
people, they don't usually have a car, and they may get a bus pass or they may not get a bus pass. They may have to panhandle for the bus pass, you know. So it's. I really thought earlier in my term on council that the most important thing we needed to do was build a homeless shelter. But you know what? If we build a homeless shelter, that is like hundreds of single moms that can't be given between $500 and $1,200 a year. My mouth doesn't work because I'm getting old.
Oh,
But,
no,
but anyway, that you can't give all those single moms the money that it takes to keep them from falling out of their apartment. So it's not just the system doesn't care about those people and we can't just build them a homeless shelter. You know, what it is we have to choose between about 150 homeless people that are living on the streets in Longmont and a much larger number of single moms who aren't living on the street yet. So it is a hard decision. And will tell you the truth, I don't know where I stand on it right now. And what I think I know is that coordinated entry has a lot of rules that are keeping people out of it.
yes,
you
they
know.
have to show that they've been in town for 6 months or more.
Yeah.
Living on the streets for 6 months or more.
Yeah.
And evading the police at the same time, of course, because in Boulder, if you are trying to live on the streets, the police will show up and take your blanket and kindly ask you to stop existing.
Yes, we have a new chief of police, so I don't wanna be too certain about policies, although I hear he's a really good guy.
Episode
But-
2 was largely about that issue. We were mostly talking about what they're doing in Boulder.
In Boulder,
Yes.
yeah, which is something that I don't have a lot of authority over,
Of course,
you know?
of course.
Um,
In Longmont,
but-
we have the core team, which I think is sort of our answer to sending police to deal with nonviolent
Yeah, well, we have the
problems.
core team, we have lead, and you know, if you are addicted, we have a lot of stuff. And not only that, if you are camping in an out of the way place or sleeping in an out of the way place with your backpack as a pillow, you know, we don't move you along unless people really complain,
Yeah.
you know, because,
What if you're like starting a campfire in the alley or something? That's a problem or whatever.
well,
And
yeah,
that's not based on
especially if it's up
coverage.
against the wall of a wooden building,
But
yeah.
also, like, Boulder is underperforming with beds for these people and shelter to give them.
Oh, sure.
There's a church in town that is almost outperforming the city of Boulder.
Well, it's actually 2 churches, I
Two
believe.
churches, I think you're right.
But yeah, and.
That's a
they
disgrace.
didn't-
It's a disgrace to our
It's a
system.
disgrace, it is a disgrace, although I do wanna give a shout out to, you know, Hope, who is the organization that organizes the
Whoop, whoop.
sleeping areas in the churches. You know, there's Journey Church, and honestly, I'm embarrassed to say this, but I think it's changed recently, and so I don't know what the second church is right now.
Yeah, I don't know what they are either.
but
But I'd
anyway.
also like to give a shout out to DJ K-Wub. K-Wub! That's all.
Is that a
I just wanted to
sponsor?
give a shout out too. It just
Oh,
seemed like
okay.
a good time in the show.
Yeah, right. And you know, we have the Veterans Community Project. I think it's important to talk about them a little bit.
What's that?
The Veterans Community Project, which is being built on land that was donated by an evil developer. And yeah, you should really clap for that because.
I can't.
Yeah. Right, so it was donated to a group of veterans who understands what it is like to have been in the military in the United States without a draft, where they essentially use you up, and, you know, some people make it and get tough and get life skills and all of that stuff, and those are the ones that are running the Veterans Community Project. Some people get used up, and have a really hard time reintegrating into society.
That's right. They're victims of the system as well.
Yeah. Although I really have to say, victim of the system is one of the things that you talk about a lot before you have held office, Andy.
Mm-hmm.
And so once you get in and figure out how complicated it is, and then that you don't actually know the answer, it's something that you say a lot less.
Maybe that's right.
So think about that.
I'm not great at thinking. But I do know that like a lot of my friends that did go into the military were basically tricked into joining
That can
with
happen.
promises and whatnot, and then they get weeks and weeks of training to become a soldier, but they get zero training on the way back out to become a normal person again, whose job it isn't to kill everyone.
Yeah.
That's a tough line to draw. And like the way that our system is set up at this point, we do sort of use up those people and just kind of like good luck turning back into a normal person or whatever and living back in normal society again.
Yeah. Well, so they're building a tiny home village, and tiny homes is one of those keywords that everybody who thinks about low-cost housing says, that's the solution.
Mm-hmm.
Well, no, it's not a good solution at all, because first of all, they all have to have the same city hookups, sewer, water, electricity and stuff as a whole house does, or a multifamily building does, but they're really little. So you need a lot of hookups, and those are the most expensive part of the building. But what they are really good for is if you have post-traumatic stress or a traumatic brain injury, living on top of somebody else who also has some kind of a problem like that is really, really hard. So and Longmont had that because we have what's called permanent supportive housing in the suites, right? And it's a former hotel. And without a lot of case management in there, people start not getting along. And it's a problem because they're all living on top of each other. So tiny homes are a really great way to give people their own space while they make the transition from traumatized homelessness back to a more stable member of society.
I appreciate your insight on that. It's obviously like a piece of what would help a part of that community, but it's obviously not the whole idea.
Yeah, well, and if they did that with like the people that are coming out of Afghanistan now, you wouldn't need 2 years, which is how long the Veterans Community Project hopes that people will stay before they're ready to move on to having their own place and their own job and all of that, right? But if you could do that for 3 months instead of just getting turned loose, where's your family? Well, we have a transition hostel, 25, 30 miles from where your family is and where your friends are and where you went to college, whatever it is, And so, you could live there for 3 months while you're getting your feet on the ground and look for jobs and figure out how the skills you lived in the military transfer into the private sector. And maybe it wouldn't be so traumatic when that happens to people. And right now that's happening to a lot of people. And right now the United States is still trying to decide whether we welcome the people that, saved the lives of our veterans in Afghanistan, or whether we're gonna decide that they're immigrants and we don't like them. So I hope we make the right decision about that. All I can say is that, as a public servant who is gonna have a job next year because I don't have an appointment, I'm gonna try to help coordinate. Call me up, or send me an email or something. But if you're an organization, a nonprofit that wants to find a way to host some people out of Afghanistan, call me up, because my time is fungible. It expands to fill the need.
I think we hear your heart, and I really appreciate where you're coming from on that.
Yeah, okay.
Oh, you got the claps.
We got the woke snaps,
The
right?
woke snaps. That's good. We like that.
Yeah, we like that, and it's really sad because I can't really make any noise with snapping my fingers. Oh, you have that problem too for a different reason.
Anyway,
Yeah,
I wanted to do a quick segment on the show.
yeah.
This segment is called Pop Quiz Hotshot.
Oh, I'm already a hot shot, you don't have to show me that.
No, I know. But did you ever see that movie Speed?
No.
It's a Speed reference. Pop Quiz Hotshot. Doesn't matter. It's stupid. I'm going to ask you 4 questions. Now, these are multiple choice questions. They are not intended to be difficult questions. The answers are A, D, A, A. It's a multiple choice. And it's just sort of like to touch base. And we got a pretty good view of who you are and where your heart's at. We like you very much. We're glad that you're going to have your seat again in council.
Some people are and some people aren't.
Well, fuck them, they should run.
That's what I said, only without the F word.
Oh, you can trust me for that F word shit.
Yeah.
All right, pop quiz hotshot.
Okay.
All right. Question number 1. What is the job of the public servant? Is it A, to serve the public? Or is it B, to build personal wealth? Or is it C, to get us all fucking killed?
Well, fortunately, we can't do C. It's A, of course.
A.
You told
That's
me
correct.
it was A.
It was
you know,
A.
But it's amazing how many people think it's B.
Yes.
There is almost no way to take any profit from being on the city council.
Yeah.
And they pay us $1,000 a month. So, you know, so the thing is that if you're gonna really do a good job on the city council, you must have already built your personal wealth.
Perfect. Wonderful. I knew you'd get it. Now, question 2. I don't know if you saw my interview with the mayor.
I saw a little of it.
He is a big Star Wars fan, and I love to fucking hate him for it. So, question 2. What is the dumbest thing about Star Wars? Is it A, Han Solo understands Wookiee language but apparently refuses to speak it himself? Is it B, the central conflict of the franchise is essentially a question of which big thing to blow up? Or is it C, Jedi swords don't have a stun setting? Or is it D, all of the above because Star Wars is a stupid show for babies? It's D.
I know it's D, and I don't know which comment to make, right? Because first of all, I was 13 years old when Star Trek, which was the other right answer,
Superior franchise, of course.
yeah, came out, you know, and so I spent 3 years in love with Mr. Spock.
Very fair. And may your love live long and prosper.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah, I can even do that. You know.
Nailed it.
It
Yeah.
still works.
It works
right?
great.
Yeah, the other thing is that I think that only one actual, because I've been a science fiction fan for longer than before Star Trek, right? But
I love you.
so the other thing is that there's really only been one science fiction movie ever made. As it's called Blade Runner. And if you have never seen that, it's a film noir as well.
Yes.
Yes.
It's like if Star Trek went wrong, that would be our answer of the world. It's like Star Wars on
Yeah.
Earth looks like Blade Runner.
Yeah, right, and that's, I mean, except for the rain, I think that's where we're headed. Yeah.
Except
so-
for the rain.
I love that film.
I agree with you actually, and that is
Yeah.
also a better franchise than Star Wars.
Yeah.
And there's like
Except it's
2
not
movies.
not a franchise much.
No, there's 2 of them, and they're both good, which is
Yeah.
almost as many as Star Wars has. Out of their franchise, basically 2 movies.
Yeah.
Great, perfect answer. Question 3, hot shot. What is the best way to help the homeless folks in our community? Is it A, enact legislation and partner with local charities and surrounding communities to provide resources based on the actual needs of that community at a scale that legitimately impacts them? Or is it B, have the police take their blankets and then at gunpoint politely ask them to stop existing?
Well, it's A.
It's
and
A, motherfuckers!
I have something else, you know, to say about that because I actually believe that the legislation and the funding needs to be done at the federal level. It's sort of like gun legislation. You know, homeless people can cross boundaries and they're pretty stinking good at it.
Sure.
But if you expect Boulder County to fund Colorado's homelessness, you're gonna be disappointed.
Yeah.
So, you know, a municipality, a population center needs to have the means to give a basic level of care to its own homeless, so that we do not cause migrations. You know, I talked to a homeless guy that lives here, well, a near homeless guy. You know, he's a member of the precariat, yeah, and,
Well, I think there's a bigger number in that group than people might realize, people almost about to be homeless.
yeah, almost about to be homeless, and that's where he is. And he was homeless for a while, and he was in Southern California when he was homeless. And he, you know, he worries at me. I try to help him, but you know, you can't help everybody person by person. You know, you can spend a lot of time on it, and sometimes it works. But anyway, he's told me, you know, if I have to move out of my mobile home, I'm gonna have to go back to Southern California because I'm not gonna spend a winter here. I wouldn't survive it.
That's why it's a real issue we're talking about on this show, and I appreciate
Yeah.
your candor. I think what we're discovering through these interviews is that it is a problem that Longmont needs to deal with our homeless community, but it's somebody, we have to work with our surrounding communities
Mhm.
to make sure that we're all doing something.
That's
Because
right.
nobody, if one person if one community has more resources, it's gonna shunt all the people to that community instead of spreading out the resources throughout the county.
Yes,
Yeah,
that's actually right. And, you know, the county is just too small, right? So it was, I think a lot because of Boulder County, to give just a completely unrelated example. People worked really hard to get this state law passed that says that each municipality or county can have its own firearms regulations. You know how well that's gonna work. That is not gonna work, you know. We live on the edge of Boulder County, and we live on the edge of Wyoming. You know, you think that any regulations that we put on firearms are gonna have any meaning whatsoever?
I'm not
You know?
educated on this subject to be able to give a good answer.
I'll give you, well, it was a rhetorical
I
question.
know, but I'm just putting it out there, but I don't necessarily have the answer to that.
Yeah, but homelessness is like that, you know, you
Yes.
need to get any kind of regulation enacted at the highest level of government possible, because you're trying to regulate something or someone, because I don't wanna, you know, objectify actual human beings, that is mobile, right? And so, you know, you need to have a consistent approach to managing it in that case, in both of those cases. So, you know, we do our best with homeless people, and I think we have a lot of pretty humane policies, but they are policies that don't come together and form a solution. You know, when one person loses it, then they can have a co-responder team talk to them. You know, so it's a point solution, but it's not a general solution. So, I will tell you, I can completely confess, I do not know what the solution is. I know that it does not involve sweeping them out of the city, and it does not involve building fewer houses or apartments.
Yeah. I was talking to a politician, we were talking about the homelessness problem, and I say, how do you fix this? And he goes, oh, childhood education. Like, if only these kids would bring home a straight A report card, their parents would have homes. Motherfucker. All right.
Well, you know, that might help the homelessness problem in 25 years, but it's not gonna help the one we have now.
That ain't helping this week.
You know, was that Bagley?
Maybe it was Bagley. We'll have to listen to
Maybe
this
it was
episode.
Bagley. So, cause I wanted to crawl right through the cable, and argue with him.
Oh, sure.
When I was watching you and Brian,
There's no reason for me to argue with him. He'll be out of office in a few months. If I talked him out of everything and into my position on everything, there'd be no point of that.
Yeah,
He
but-
couldn't change anything now.
But, you know, he and I are like almost neighbors. He lives in Prospect and I live in Quail Ridge, cause like
Oh.
money, you know, but.
Yeah.
But close enough to be neighbors. You know, but what he said on your show, that if we wanna get rid of a lot of Longmont's problems and make housing costs less, we should just let the neighborhood go to hell. Let
Yeah,
the city
I think he was being
deliberate.
sarcastic,
Have-
but that is what he said.
I don't know, he did say that, you know.
Yeah, I
And-
mean, I like Brian personally, but we do disagree on, boy, almost everything.
Yeah, me too, that's where I am, I actually do like him.
Yeah, because you can't not like him just like we like you. But like, we disagree with politicians all the time. It's our job to kind of like maneuver those things in a community and not
Yeah,
make it
well.
our real sticking point. Question 4, hotshot! Here's another question. This is the final question.
Okay,
Average Americans are facing an historic financial crisis because of the virus that shut down so much of our society last year. True. During that same year, billionaires got even wealthier and now have time and funding for joyrides in outer space. While some Americans are paying their bills on credit cards that literally have the phrase "Chase Freedom" on it. How can our nation ever bounce back from this crisis? Is it A, tax the billionaires?
yes.
There were no other
Yeah.
options.
And I want you to know that even though I am not a billionaire, not even close, that I voted for every opportunity to tax myself in every election that I've ever voted in. Because if you got lucky and got the, the ability to earn more money than you need, then you're not paying enough taxes.
That's right, and most wealth in this country is inherited wealth. So you're talking about motherfuckers that didn't work for it. Yo, daddy and shit worked for that. And so like it's kind of a nuanced issue, but it's not about like these bootstrap people are just better and smarter than us. That's not what it is. You know? Yeah, we have to tax the billionaires. That was the right answer.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got a straight A.
Yeah, well, you told me the answers in advance.
Well, yeah.
I try to be really transparent about that, which is my third campaign priority. Right?
I've never taken a test that I didn't cheat on.
Oh.
Not a
Sorry,
written
I can't
test.
agree with you on that
Well,
one. I haven't.
kids, here's a note. If you're in school and you're having trouble with school, just realize your main job is to get out of school. Just learn enough to be able to teach yourself and you'll be fine. Learn how to learn. That's what my granddaddy told me. Please the teachers and get out of their way. You'll be fine. Don't worry about college.
So I enjoy education and I know some very fine teachers that I really
We honor
respect.
teachers. We honor teachers.
Even though you didn't.
Well, I don't think it's dishonorable to tell the kids to not worry so much about grades and shit. Nobody, when you try and get a job in some years, nobody gives a goddamn if you got a D in history class, I promise.
Yeah.
Yeah. Marcia, any last notes for the folks? She's
Yeah,
running for office, but like she's gonna win, so
Well, so yeah.
we should throw the party for you now.
I'm here because, I don't have to run a campaign and I'm really relieved about that because
Yeah.
I didn't know what to expect, you
Sure.
know. But I don't like to think of myself as on the sidelines for this election. I like to think of myself as a wild card. Cause there's stuff somebody has to say. You know,
Yeah.
there's stuff somebody has to say like, you're wrong about the traffic. Stop trying to keep us from building the housing we need because you're worried about whether you can park in front of your house,
Yeah.
okay?
Yep. Yep.
Because first of all, you've got it wrong. It's not gonna make more traffic, it's gonna make less traffic. And second, that space in front of your house doesn't belong to you. So everybody needs to stop looking only at their own little circle of interest and realize that what we have is a really fine city that is on the brink of one of those transitions, between kind of a small agricultural town and a real city. And we've surrounded ourselves with open space. So we have to do an absolutely perfect job of urban design in order to make it a fine little gem of the city it's like San Francisco scaled down, or even Denver scaled down. We want to have all the things that they have because our children deserve that. And, you know, our well-to-do children are gonna get that, right? Cause, you know, their parents don't work 90 hours a week. They only have one job or 1.5 jobs if it's a mom and a dad that, you know, somebody probably works half-time. And so they have time to take their kid into regional team hockey, and it doesn't matter if the skating rink is down in Superior or Lafayette or wherever it is, or up in Fort Collins, because they don't have to long commute, so they can just drive their kids around all weekend, right? Or, you know, we have a really fine symphony orchestra that's about to lose its venue because the deal was that it belongs to the school district, and the school district is having a hard time giving them space anymore, you know? And we have a bunch of other, you know, we have a ballet for children that doesn't have a place to perform. And we have, you know, a chorale, like, you know, arias, you know, recitative, that kind of stuff, right? And they don't have a place to perform. And if kids have to be able to go down to the Denver Center for Performing Arts to see stuff like that, 2/3 of our kids are never gonna have a chance to see that.
They're
So
gonna internalize that that's not for me.
that's
part
not
of
for
someone
me.
else's world.
That's right. And so social equity means that we have to build Longmont into a complete town. You know, Northern Colorado's sweet spot, the gem. And we can do that,
Yeah.
but you have to stop believing we can't.
Oh, we're done. She's great. Oh my gosh. We can just say we like you because you're not running against anyone. It's not gonna make us seem like assholes. We like you.
Oh, well, thank you.
Thank you for coming to
Thank
meet me
you.
today and being on my stupid
right.
little show. I really appreciate you.
I feel like I went over time.
You didn't. There's no such thing as that. They'll do whatever we do.
Oh, okay.
I just gave them an episode about me and a monkey. They will run anything.
Yeah, I've noticed that.
Thank you for coming on the show. Thank you for watching the show, and you know, whatever. We'll see you another time.
Okay. And the end of the song.
Put it on before we stand up, officer.